Some people are complaining about Mr. Beast. These people are rude, they are wrong, and they're embarrassing. Just listen to this and just hear for yourself.
So there's a video circulating, gaining a lot of traction, and the conversation is growing about Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast has or is planning to drill 100 wells across Kenyan schools. I don't know where in. I saw he's even calling some place Nairobi. No, you can't even say Nairobi. You understand what's wrong with these Muzungus? Muzungus are very disgusting. Because we are trying to project or we are trying to validate the stereotype that Kenya or Africa is a dark continent, dependent on handouts, dependent on philanthropic interventions. I would have expected that Mr. Beast, when he comes to Kenya, he's going to a place meeting young intellectuals. There's all these collectives of people who do a lot of IT stuff to talk about things to an audience who will take that and translate it into action, into money, into job creation, into wealth creation. But no, these guys they are now going there, and now he's promoting as if we are a poor country. We are not a poor country. First of all those regions that he's going to have something called Community Development Fund. It goes to the tune of say $100,000 every. Not even $100,000 is $1 million every year allocation. $1 million specifically for building schools. What do they do? The parents of those children are bribed with $10 so as to vote for corrupt people. Why? Because Mr. Beast, if you took time to talk to people who are politically conscious, will tell you that the governors who get all this money, who get all these allocations, they don't do what is expected of them. What do they do instead? They hide the money, they launder it in the real estate sector. America is the problem as regards to extending the streak of poverty. America is the biggest problem because they are the ones who launder proceeds of crime in your banking systems. You understand? America is part of the problem, and you, Mr. Beast, are not supposed to be coming here to validate some of these long-held stereotypes and narratives that Africa is a dark continent, Africa is poor. No, we are not poor. We are the richest continent on earth. And what do you do? If you are really genuine, you should be going back there and doing your activism, reaching out to and even talking about these issues to your leaders, because Joe Biden, Donald Trump, they have embraced the corrupt Kenyan leadership. They are very for other reasons. They talk about security, they talk about what, they talk about terrorism, but it's never about our interests. So the people who have created the imbalance, the people who have caused poverty to become a way of life in Kenya, most of the responsibility is the Western governments, it's the Western regimes. They are the ones who get who have created a camaraderie with the corrupt African leadership, so that our money ends up.
So let's get this straight. Mr. Beast has done something amazing. And we should be grateful that he's using his platform and resources to solve a problem that affects so many. 100 wells across Africa. These wells will provide clean drinking water for up to 500,000 people in Cameroon, Kenya, Somalia, Uganda, Zimbabwe. An accompanying fundraiser to support local water aid organizations has already raised over 300,000 US dollars already. And let's be very clear. The first thing that this guy is wrong about is about narratives and stereotypes, right? Some of the things that are happening in Africa are not just narratives and stereotypes. They are the reality. Here's the reality about access to water. About 387 million people lived without access to basic water services in sub-Saharan Africa in 2020. And this number was up from 350 million people in 2000. And this is according to the World Health Organization UNICEF Progress Report. So the water condition has gotten worse for many people. As of October 2022, about 226 million people in Eastern and Southern Africa did not have access to basic water services. And 381 million people lacked access to basic sanitation services. That's the extent of the problem. What about the dark continent side of things? In 2020, in 2022, 600 million people in Africa, or 43% of the continent, lacked access to electricity. The vast majority of them were in sub-Saharan Africa. Poverty. What about poverty? In sub-Saharan Africa, 560 million people, 58% of the population, are living in multidimensional poverty. And that's from the United Nations Development Program. 30 out of the 48 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, almost 2/3, have been designated as fragile, conflict-afflicted, or violent. Fragile, conflict-afflicted, or violent, right? That's the state of Africa right now. That's the state of Africa right now. So when this guy comes and says that, Mr. Beast is perpetuating narratives about Africa, as if Africa doesn't have problems with electricity, water, and poverty, he's lying. These are not narratives, they're statistical realities. Number 2, African leaders should actually be embarrassed at every turn. They are mostly corrupt, they're extremely lazy, and mostly incompetent. There should be no compassion for their brands whatsoever. It's not Mr. Beast's job to deal with corruption by African leaders or to deal with American foreign policy. That shouldn't be an expectation of him. The expectations of this Kenyan man are extremely unrealistic about what Mr. Beast can do in his individual capacity. Stephen Covey, in his book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, speaks about the difference between a circle of concern and a circle of influence. And he advises that you make sure that you focus your activities and actions in your circle of influence, the things that you can change. Mr. Beast has clearly done that. Finally, the solutions suggested by this man are just more talking. Have a conference on IT. Have a discussion with American leaders and policymakers. Talk. Mr. Beast has chosen to act. And that action has led to water provision for many people who these African leaders have failed to provide for. I think he's ungrateful. I think he's arrogant. And I think that he does not understand philanthropic work. Finally, I want to say this. Some people have complained that Mr. Beast uses altruism for content, that he just uses all of these videos where he does good work for, goodwill towards him so that he can make more money from the YouTube videos. Fundamentally, I would submit to you that it's irrelevant and it doesn't matter. If the nature of his altruism is such that it helps people on the ground, I think that the greatest good for the greatest number is achieved through this form of altruism. Of course, there are some people who believe that philanthropy should not be displayed, but the model of this philanthropy requires attention. It requires clicks. It requires engagement. And I think that's okay. We have to be so honest in our moral evaluations that we should not be holier than thou. If what Mr. Beast is doing is helping Africans, it's helping poor people, it's building homes, it's providing shoes, it's providing water, it doesn't matter that he also gets goodwill from the public and that gets content that he can post on his other platforms. What matters more, in my opinion, is the pragmatic help to the people on the ground. So this African guy does not speak for all of us, and I don't have a problem whatsoever with African leaders being embarrassed, shamed for their failure to act and to make sure that people have water, electricity, schools, school shoes, textbooks, whatever the case may be. These African leaders are not worth defending.